Are you interested in being a writer?
Yeah, possibly.
Okay. So one of the big traps about trying to be a writer is you took English classes and they told you what great writing is, and then you'll sit there and think about Shakespeare and Hemingway or whatever, and you will never get past the first page. So I set the bar like down there, and then I looked up and I said, I found out how much a first mystery novel sold for. And so I said, okay, I forgot what's $5,000 or $10,000 then. And it still is the same, by the way, you know, like 25 years, 30 years later, however long it's been I've been writing. It's gone awful. But what I did at the time was I said, okay, how long can I spend on this to make economic sense? And I figured I'd have to do it in, I think it was 4 months. And I worked it out so that it would be 2 weeks of research, and then 5 pages a day, 6 days a week, I think. Then I threw in a week for screw-ups, and 2 weeks for rewrites. And that's how I wrote my first book. And I've never been able to do that since. But, I mean, as a starting proposition, I think it's a much better one than trying to be literary. Yeah. Anything?
What other writers of fiction, which other writers of fiction are you aware of that take a stance of antipathy toward religion?
I don't know any offhand. I'm sure there are many, or some. I don't know any offhand.
So you've not read any other suspense or mystery novels that?
No, absolutely.
So you're yeah.
Maybe. I mean, again, I don't have universal knowledge of it, you know. And I shouldn't say this, I don't read as much fiction as I used to. I tend to read stuff that's relevant to what I'm working on, which tends to be tons of nonfiction. Every once in a while I'll grab a bunch of mysteries and say, you know, I got to remind myself of what I'm doing here. And, you know, but I don't do it as a regular thing that much anymore. I used to. Yeah.
You know, speaking of religion being like a, you know, delusional or something, do you think you have any beliefs that would be not grounded in reality?
How would I know what they are?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we developed through evolution with a multitude of ways of figuring things out. You know, a multitude of senses and sensibilities. We have an aesthetic sense in our...
well, maybe I should say that maybe you had that you've kind of gotten rid of. You used to read astrology or...
I still throw the I Ching when when I have absolutely no rational or informational basis to make a decision of it. Okay? And it's okay because it's incomprehensible. But, you know, I'll just do it to, I don't know, because I'm looking to make decisions that I can't make, because I don't have genuine information. And I guess if it told me to do something really stupid, I wouldn't. Yeah.
In Iran, you had this overwhelming feeling of being a Jew. Do you get such overwhelming feeling being an atheist somewhere?
Being what?
Being an atheist.
An artist?
Atheist.
Atheist? No. It's you know, we were talking about that. We as atheists have to find some kind of emotional bonding and basis for creating a movement. Otherwise, we'll never get people to tithe to us. You know, yeah, it's a very kind of, you know, cold, rational. The only other thing I can that I've ever felt that way was when I was at Oxford. I felt in a much more moderate way about Oxford and my college, which was really weird. You know, it was the first time in my life I'd ever felt that I was part of an active community. So I would find myself returning to Oxford after being away and feeling emotionally moved for coming home. Yeah.
Apropos of that, Einstein, who said many good things, of course, said that one of the appeal of science to him was that it put him in touch with great minds, you know, throughout history. So he had that kind of identification with scientists. I wanted to ask you, besides yourself and Muhammad, who among mystery writers do you particularly admire?
Who? I have a shelf of books that I really liked a lot, and I'm just trying to recall. George Higgins. Higgins was pretty brilliant for a while. I loved John D. MacDonald for about 20 or 30 books there. You know, I'm trying to think of people who get beyond Ross MacDonald, get beyond being really good and consistent entertainers. Eric Ambler, absolutely. John le Carré sometimes. A bunch of good people.
How about Mankell, the Swede?
You've
not read it.
No, I haven't. Anything else?
I'm
Yeah.
wondering, I'd like to take advantage of your trip to Iran.
Sure.
About 15 years ago, when Ayatollah first came into the picture, 20 years ago, there were a lot of Iranians that fled. You know, mostly younger professional people whose parents had sent them to Oxford, as they usually did then. I was involved with 3 Iranians who were seeking entry here to Canada. And what I learned from them is all their families, their sisters, their cousins, they were all professionals. For instance, his sister had been the head of the neurological department in the hospital. She was a director. And the females seemed to have very high education and positions in the institution, professors of university and so on. And then that seemed to have been reversed when Ayatollah came in. Women were deprived, refused.
No.
Well, for a time.
Okay.
For a time. I'm wondering, what's the status now?
You know, I mean, the majority of university students are women. Women are very active everywhere. You know, there's a glass ceiling, yes, and certainly in science, technical stuff, the straight up business stuff, women are very active. Iranian women are, I don't know quite how to say this, but are not innately oppressed people. They're very active, vigorous, alert, outspoken, etc. There is another issue, which is that in addition to being a theocratic state,